It is not, I think, an accident that our lectionary is so arranged that this story always comes up in the fall when parishes like this one are in the midst of a stewardship campaign. And so on this Stewardship Sunday, we have the story of the woman putting her 2 coins in the temple, held up for us as a positive example of Christian stewardship. I'd like to take from that story 3 thoughts, if you will, 3 words, 3 sibilants, about starting, about struggling, and about celebrating. About starting. The point here, I think, is in part that giving begins when we have very little. If at this moment you are thinking about the possibility of pledging or not, and you're weighing the question of whether your gift would be large enough to make a difference, the story would seem to tell us to stop worrying. Giving, significant giving, begins when we have very little. And if we wait for that distant day when we are entirely financially secure, when we have lots of money out of which to contribute, that moment in which we have abundance out of which to give, we've somehow missed the point of this story and ended up more like the scribes who were criticized than the woman who contributes her 2 coins. Starting begins when we have little, and it begins then to shape a pattern of giving for our lives. The second thought is about struggle. I like the English word stewardship. It is a wonderfully earthy word. Now, in some other languages, there's a more elegant word to describe the way in which we handle the goods that God has given us. In Spanish, for example, it is mayordomía, a word related to the loan word major domo that comes over into English. The head of the house makes decisions about how the goods of the house are divided. The head of the house makes decisions how everybody else is to take part in that division. But stewardship is a far muckier word. It comes from Anglo-Saxon, and by some accounts at least, it comes from being the keeper of the sty, the pig keeper. It's not quite the job you can have and keep your hands clean and stand at a distance. And I think that captures some of what the story would tell us today, that giving involves struggle and muckiness. You have to look at your checkbook. You have to think about your budget. You have to set your priorities. You have to decide to not do some things and not buy some things that you would like to have. True stewardship has a sense of struggle, and this poor woman who put in the only coin she had is an example of a struggle in stewardship. The final thought is about celebration. After you've read the story, it would seem that it would be somewhat out of place to have an expanded check and a broad smile and a professional photographer and your picture on the front page of the banner as the #1 giver in the parish. That doesn't seem to be the point here. It is the inconspicuous giver that our Lord has held up as the model. Because the celebration in the end is not a celebration of how great we are or the great things that we have done, but rather a celebration of the great things that God has already done for us. The great giving that God has given to us, out of which we take a portion and out of recognition of our relationship to God, we offer that portion back in stewardship. Celebration, to be sure, but not of the goodness of the giver, but the goodness of God, who has given us all out of which we share in the first place. So on this Stewardship Sunday, we have before us the example of the widow who put her 2 coins in the treasury, who tells us something about starting to give, about struggling to give, and about the celebration that lies behind all stewardship. And Jesus said, "They all have given out of their abundance, but this poor woman out of her poverty has given all that she has." Amen.